Alors bonsoir tout le monde, bienvenue à cette...
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this standing committee of the Municipal Council. It's basically an information meeting at which we're here to listen to presentations either by staff or by the public. It's a meeting where no decisions are made. As we say generally, it's basically an information meeting, so the Standing Committee on Public Policies and Strategies. So, without further ado, our first group for the presentation is Aaron Chance. For those who might need interpretation services, there are some devices at the back of the room. If not, we continue. So, hi, I'm Aaron Chance. I work with an organization which is called Our Food, Southeast New-Brunswick. We're a regional network, so that includes Kent County, Westmoreland, and Albert. And today I'm here to talk to you about the Food Pledge. The Food Pledge, it's an idea. There's a movement surrounding food in our region. You know it. The municipality of Dieppe is a part of it with La Récolte de Chez Nous and the Dieppe market. So a good part of our work is access to food, basically. So how it concerns our health, education, local economy with local products, environment, culture, and social justice. Access to food is something that's very important in our region. So the purpose of the pledge is basically it's called a food charter. But when we looked at this, we considered that it was a document that we can make the public aware. So we changed that to the Food Pledge. And the objective or the purpose, I'm going to say it in English because here I don't like the translation that I've done in French.
Let's break down the complexity of the food system into bite-sized actions that link our work at the individual, organizational, and political levels to set goals and build a food system that benefits all. Donc, l'idée, vraiment, c'est de...
So the idea generally is, because food safety is very complex, there are a lot of moving pieces, and it's a way of looking at it and a way of organizing in the broader ways that we can plan with. So this project took a lot of time to get organized. I think it's approximately 3 years. So we have quite a few partners. We took our time. We made sure that we're going to spend time with the public, with a lot of non-profit organizations, with producers, with teachers, because our school system is involved. And what we wanted to do basically is to put something on paper that would help us share and spread the message, to inspire others inside the decision makers, the public, in order to reach a better system, because in our area there's a great potential for this. So our objective is together to create relationships to establish a vigorous food system that will contribute to the well-being of the region, culturally and health-wise too. So the way we organized this pledge, we divided it in 6 pillars, basically. So very quickly, I'll describe the pillars of this pledge, and I'll add in some examples. So concerning health, we know very well that food is directly linked to our health, very deeply, as a matter of fact, because we now know that we have problems with chronic disease that are related directly to what we eat. And There's the problem of obesity in New Brunswick, things like that. So one example is the question that I like to ask, and then we try to find a solution for: why is it so easy and so cheap to buy food with sugar and things like that? And how come is it so difficult to find good food? Because when we go to the store, it's not that easy, especially if we have a limited budget. This is where it's very difficult. I want to fill my children's stomach. I don't have a big budget. I'm not going to go to the prime articles. Another pillar is education, know-how, food, traditions. We have to share these things in our schools, in our communities. Home ec does not exist in our schools anymore. And here in the Francophone South, there are some incredible projects. So things exist that we can celebrate. It's not totally negative, but more and more there's a lack of link with our cultures, and social culture is something that is linked to our health and to our local economy, because we don't have the habit now of finding out where our food comes from. It's not questions that we ask anymore. Where does our food come from? It's also at home. Our local economy, our local producers. There's a great economic potential there. We know it at the market, for example. So, few statistics: since the 60s, we've lost 90% of our producers, of our farmers, and during the same time, we produce 75% of our food, and now we're at the point where we import 95% of what we buy in the stores. It's an incredible shift, and in a very short amount of time. And it's something that we could address, that the Food Pledge would like to work on. Third pillar, environment. The fourth pillar, how does it impact our local economy, our local systems, but also climate change and the impact that the way we do things has on the environment. And culture, Acadian culture is centered around local project, and the majority of these dishes are not as available as they used to be, especially when we talk about seafood. And even when we talk about things as simple as potatoes, for example. Local potatoes are produced, but in our stores, most of the potatoes that we find do not come from around here. Actually, potatoes is not maybe a good example, but there are a whole lot of other good examples. I didn't necessarily choose the proper example, but also social justice. The idea is that the most vulnerable people of our society are those who need the best food possible so they can have an impact on their quality of life. And that is something that right now is far from being optimum. Those people who need it the most are the most vulnerable in our society, and those are the ones who have the least access to healthy food. So it would give them the opportunity to meet their possibilities. Our citizens use more and more the services of food banks, and food banks, well, that's not a very good way of measuring food safety, because just 1/3 of the people who live in food risky situations who will go to food banks. Another thing is food in our society is treated as a commodity, like fuel and things like that, whereas it's a basic ingredient for the well-being of the community. We need to ask people to start thinking about food in a different way. So with this guide, with this pledge, we have an adventure guide. We call this, it's a guide full of ideas for actions, concrete actions, initiatives. We want to make the public aware as to what goes on in our community already, because there are a lot of things going on, and it's a way of engaging the community with initiatives to encourage them to think outside the box to find new ideas. Couple of examples of food actions to understand what we're looking for is to encourage people to understand the food policies that exist, to identify the possible plots of land that have potential. Organize, for example, a collective, a cooperative kitchen. There are a lot of things. That's one way of having access to good food and to good for the community. Join a purchasing club. They're starting up right now. Or with the possibility of buying in bulk, so we could have a lot of fruit that for which we pay wholesale. So you pay $15 and you receive $50 worth of produce. Learn to save or to keep our grains. There are possibilities of learning to create urban gardens. Maybe this next one, the idea is to have our own chickens. Maybe it's not a good idea to talk about this in a municipality, but it's a good way of getting protein, and I don't want to bother you with that aspect, so maybe we can forget the chickens for now. So examples of what other municipalities are doing in our region. It's the adoption of the food pledge, Moncton, Riverview, Riverside, Albert, and there are other municipalities that are starting to join the group of the adoption of the food pledge. It's very broad lines. We don't ask for anything. We just ask you to use this promise or this pledge in our way of doing things. The city of Riverview has a very good idea. They invested in the Coverdale Rec Center kitchen. They transformed it in a Class 5 kitchen. That's an incubator kitchen. So if you wanted to start a small business, they had micro grants. If you wanted to start a small business, they're going to let you use the kitchen free. And then as you develop your business plan, you start paying a rent. And at the end, in 1 year, they've received $10,000 in revenues through this. So 5 micro businesses started. Some of them still exist now. The city of Moncton and Riverview. Well, in Moncton, they have their social inclusion plan. They used the food pledge and the sustainability integrated plan for Riverview. They also put in the food pledge in the description and the job description for students for summer jobs. It's part of their job description to think about where the food comes. An example, as we do, they have a community movie night, and instead of giving popcorn, they gave blueberries, little things like that. And also the local produce being used at municipal events in Riverview. A lot of municipalities do this, but when we pledge this, when we have this food pledge for the municipality, it gives the municipality the opportunity to be at the forefront of this action. I wanted to talk about the social determinants of health that are affected. They have an impact on the members of the community regardless of their individual health choices. So these are things, these resources, infrastructures that exist in our communities that have nothing to do with the personal decisions of citizens. And this is where the municipalities can have an impact. It's where we say, okay, food is federal or provincial, but the community environment in which the citizen lives can have an impact on these determinants. So I wanted to mention this. There's a lot of research on this that shows that municipalities can actually play a very important role in access to food. So we're not asking you to make a decision, but it's something that we're asking the council to think about it, to adopt and to sign this food pledge as a municipality, to promote this food pledge on your website and the organization, because what we find often is that when there are guidelines like this, if it's just the leadership that has it has an impact, yes, but if it reaches the whole organization, that's where it is very strong, and this is where the impact is shared among the community. So to work with Food Sud-Est, Southeast New-Brunswick, and our partners, we have many of them, to have simple actions using existing resources, things that you do already that complement the work that's already started. So we feel that with what is in existence already, we can find simple actions and we can start giving momentum to this movement. So I thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, well, questions by members of council. Thank you for your presentation, first of all. So we'll start with Mr. Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. 2 points, 2 items, and I have no questions. So no, this is the bombardment part. Maybe not at the question of chickens, maybe not downtown, but it's something that maybe we could possibly look collectively to see maybe that if we can have small chicken farms. Also, I picked up on the community gardens. I think that we could probably have more community gardens. And when I go around town and we see all the lands that have been cleared by our forefathers, I say that maybe we could benefit from these lands and profit, find a way of using these lands by, for example, having community gardens. Really, community gardens is not something easy. It's very difficult to get the commitment of citizens. But what is good is that the more gardens there are, it's not the case here, but in general, it takes a lot of work, a lot of commitment. And one aspect is the community development that has this, and the difficult part is where these gardens become a source of food, but community gardens basically have a value not only culturally but commercially too, socially. Mr. Alain, thank you for your presentation. One thing, you represent what group? In your presentation it's not very clear, so who's Aaron? And I think it was a very good presentation. I really liked the incubator kitchen in Riverview. Make people aware of what food is. Great. Do you work for the farmers market? Who's involved here? Well, who we are, it's the project Our Food. A part of our funds come from the project Our Foods from Nova Scotia. It's federal funds from PHAC, Public Health Agency of Canada. This is where we come from. We are a project that works with them. We receive the funds. We exist. We're in existence. We've been in existence for 5-6 years. We work with Moncton Head Start, United Way. So we are a host organization. So for food, Southeast is United Way. So we work through United Way, but being a network, we represent when we are organized around the stakeholders. So we have farmers who are part of the network. La École de Chez Nous, that they had a lot to do with the charter research that they've been doing for quite a while. So La Récolte, we worked with the both school districts, and we're really here to put people together. So we help them to find funds, and one way of justifying our existence is to show the impact at the community level that we can have as working with the network. I don't know if I can, if that explains it. Well, okay, for me and you, Councillor, it's not clear. It's a very good presentation, but so from now on, maybe you should start by presenting who what your organization is. Okay, that coming from a salesperson, that's good advice. Councillor Godet, Thank you for the presentation. My question is, knowing your action plan concerning the individual citizens' participation, it's good to see that us as a municipality, we can do the promotion of this initiatives, but what are you going to be doing to reach out to Monsieur or Madame concerning this food pledge? How are you going to approach that? Our communication strategy starts a month ago. We found funds in order to set up a website that is going to be dedicated to the food pledge. Before that, also, we were part of the food safety network. It was a little difficult to find, so now we're going to have our own website. But really, the pledge is the direct pledge with the members of our network. But the strategy that we have chosen is that we're not looking to find many signatures in a petition. We're trying to look for people who are committed, who identify with this charter. And I didn't show you, I mean, if you're interested, you can look it up, but the action guide is approximately, it's a guide that unpacks everything that's in there. So in that guide, there are a lot of resources. The idea is that if we share resources, people are going to start to become committed. And at the same time, if our partners, Slow Food, Cocagne, Acadie, development, community inclusion network from the Kent County, Funnyvale from Albert. All these are networks that we know very well, and our approach is going to say, okay, this is a charter. We've worked together to set it up. Now go and promote this within your groups and use it in a practical sense, and we'll see that. So you don't see the participation of the specific citizen. So we're not looking for him to become committed. So there's no charter for the specific citizen that says, okay, me as a citizen, I commit myself. No. Go to the site. You click on the site to sign. We'll ask you your name, your email address, and we ask you, okay, what struck you, what interests you. We'll get that information, and we'll do a follow-up with them, and then we'll give them the action guide, and we'll say, okay, hey, there are things that are going around. There are things concerning what interests you. There are a lot of things that are going on in our schools, for example, because there could be clubs organized. There are clubs for different things, so there could be food clubs, food pledge clubs. I know that there are some. We're not aware of them, but we were, I think, part of the development of quite a few in the school system in particular, and community actions also for food. That's part of social development, and we help organizations to find funds for cooperative kitchens, community gardens, these type of things. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I would ask maybe Monsieur Bugeaud to, for the benefit of members of council, to maybe mention some items with which we're involved, like community gardens. I mean, we're talking about the Rotary Anselme, Saint-Anselme Park, École Mathieu Martin, the Aquatic Center. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We have a strategic committee on well-being, different stakeholders from the community. We have people who are in the schools, etc. So there were different projects, challenges to have people move. We did 2 years in a row concerning also food. We met people, partners in the community, to improve the quality of food that we serve to public. So we did this in our recreational installations. It's something that's continuing. There's still work to be done. There's a lot of similarities with the well-being strategy and this project. This year also there were some positive fines for good attitudes concerning health, and that was successful. Positive fines. Committee is always looking for new partners, so I've discussed this with our community officer, and I wanted to talk to it about it. Talk to the community representative. I haven't had time tonight, but I will definitely. And maybe something also that I should add. We hope maybe to be able to put the shovel in the earth for our intergenerational center, where there'll be experimental kitchens and teaching kitchens also. And if I may also, when we discuss community gardens in Dieppe, it's very popular. Just to give you an idea, one of the gardens, there were 2 additions to the aquatic center, and there's a waiting list for people who want to continue this experience of community gardens. There'll also be possibility of a greenhouse they're going to be working on. That should be interesting. Okay, thank you. Can I get an answer maybe for the agricultural lands federally? Do they pay less tax? Because within the municipality we have agricultural land. I'm looking at planning people. Yes, Mr. Mayor, provincially, yes. There is what we call the PETA, basically. A producer has to register his land in order to be able to get tax credits within the municipality. There are none like that, but we do have sectors with the new municipal plan that we established in 2015. There are still some sectors where we permit hobby farms, and in those regions, urban chickens are permitted. So there are places within the municipality that concerning PETA lands, we don't have any, because I know that in Calgary there were, at one time, there was somebody I knew who managed lands within the municipality that were classified agricultural land, which meant that the owners of those lands saved a lot of money for taxes. So there was a rebate that they were paying for these gentlemen, as long as those lands were productive. Yes, exactly. Concerning the PETA lands within the province, when the farmers decide to divide or sell the land, they have to pay the taxes that they didn't pay over the years. So usually it's their retirement funds, those lands for them. So, all right, thank you. Very good discussion. Any other questions for Mr. Aaron? We did some research over the last 4 years, and one of the things that we said is there a way of identifying broadly what kind of access there is to agricultural lands? And in our action guide, well, before I was working in geomatics, and in the book, what I took is a map of the lands of New Brunswick, and I looked at all the areas that are not forest lands in New Brunswick, and it was organized in the soil type, and it's easy to classify them. So I took that and I superimposed that on the municipality. And they're not really agricultural lands, they're not PETA, but it's still lands that could potentially be agricultural. And an example I wanted to share about it, in the Sackville, they had a community garden in really low lands, and sometimes their community gardens is flooded, so sometimes they lose what they have, but they created an edible forest garden, and it's a community garden that was made close by. There's not much to do. It took an investment to grow all these local plants. It flooded twice. It killed everything in the garden, but the little edible forest, which is as big as this place here, worked very well. Always they could get fruit. There were fiddleheads there. So there are a lot of things that can be done with potential lands, not necessarily farms. There's a lot of potential, and it was done in other areas. With our homonyms in Dieppe, in Normandy, in France, Dieppe, on the sidewalks, they have basically boxes where they grow vegetable, and it's there for people to harvest when they want. It's available to the general public. It's the type of thing. That's why a couple of weeks ago I had asked, is it possible to make a garden in the front yard at home? And the answer was yes. I know that in Quebec, in Montreal, they had tried to prevent this type of garden, but there was a revolt. So thank you very much. Are there any questions? My questions don't bring any other questions? No, thank you very much. Okay. I hope we can work together. It's collaboration. We're not here to say what should be done. Okay, thank you. Now, for the second presentation, we're going to be talking about, or Mr. Alexandre Girard, but we're going to be talking about the sustainable development plan of the municipality. So our numerous audience might want to stay. It's an interesting topic. Mr. Frenette, good evening. Good evening. So as you know, every year, this is the second year, we present the projects that we started, that we finished over the year 2017. So this is we're going to be coming back on what is the sustainable development, the three spheres of sustainable development in the 10 pillars of intervention, and we'll talk about initiatives and projects that started in 2017. So just to say that financially speaking, 2017 we obtained $182,000 in funding for two projects that we'll be presenting tonight. So as mentioned, the Sustainable Development Plan is something that we revisit every 5 years. So this one, 2017 to 2021. The development spheres, as you know, it's the community life, basically. The 10 axes that are part of the document, natural environments, climate change, food safety. That's something that you added after? Yeah, when we heard about the food safety, we had no. Residual matter, water management, energy, transportation, industry, innovation, infrastructure, quality of air, management, governance, partnership, and municipal initiatives. As mentioned, the diverse projects that we're working on is to improve the quality of life, environment, etc., economy, to development plan, sustainable. What's interesting with these documents, it's related to other documents within the community. Often at the municipal level, there are a lot of bylaws, a lot of documents, so sometimes we forget to make the relationships. I mean, we have the documents, so we don't look at them too often. Municipal plan, sustainable plan, we try to link them to the different initiatives within the municipality. So the major plan for the downtown, destination transportation, all these are related. What we did differently this year as a presentation, for those who remember last year, we tried to identify a specific project for each axe, which was a little difficult because we realized that there are some projects that we're presenting touched different axes. So tonight what we're presenting is maybe the project as such. As you can see on the bottom left, the example, the first one, The first project is BC Born, bicycle plot. So for transportation, we're talking about active transportation, destination 2040. We talk about active transportation. So last year, with the budget that we had, sustainable development, we bought three of these stations for the bicycle. It's not just for bicycles, it could be for I call it a push-push for children. So I have a little video, about a minute, that explains to you what these plots are. What's good with these BC Born, what's good with these things is that it's not a local product, but it's a Canadian product from Saint-Hyacinthe in Quebec. We've received these things with our colleague. We wanted to set them up during springtime, and we'll be doing the present. So we acquired three of them, but we want to develop a circuit within the municipality. We know that we have a lot of bicycle trails. We've identified already three sectors: the center, downtown, Rotary Park, and also an environment that's close to the marshland. So that's an initiative that we had in 2017. Another project, an interesting project, funds that we received for environment fund. It's with a former student who was working, who did an apprenticeship in a municipality here in Dieppe. It was a good experience with the students, so we saw how we could get some funds, tried to get some funds to be able to continue with her. So we put in a suggestion, a proposal to the environment, received a funding of $22,000. So with this project, it's an educational project. Two projects that are concrete. One is rain barrels for recovery of water. As you can see on the picture, we're talking about community gardens, but this is an example of barrels that we have already. And what we want to do is, there's an artistic aspect to all this project. We're working with the University of Moncton, with the Department of the Arts Department, to be able to give a nice aspect to these rain barrels. There's also a fifth grade at Anna la Malenfant school which participates in this project. There's a teacher and 4 retirees who work with the youth to promote healthy habits of water conservation. Another project, as part of this funding projects, you know that we have retention ponds within the municipality, so we identified 3 of them to improve the aesthetic aspect. Mr. Mayor, you talked about Dieppe in France with their garden boxes. What we want to do with the one that's along the Dieppe Boulevard, close to Jean Coutu, what is suggested is to plant vines, grape vines. The idea is not to have necessarily, well, at the end of 5 years, we may have grapes on them, and people, the public could pick them up. And it would actually help also the to hide these retention basins. The others that we've identified are, I mean, it's not very nice aesthetically speaking. So with tree planting project, we'd like to maybe plant trees. And the second one, the smaller one, always with the, still with the 5th grade of Madame Enfant, we want to, indigenous species that we want to plant to be able to eventually hide these retention basins. So we've talked already to the services who are responsible for the retention basins. Basically, annually, there would be improvements. So here also I have a little video to show you. It's a promotional video. It was part of things that we had to produce in order to receive the funds. So we produced a video. It's in French. It's going to be bilingual, and it shows how to set up a rain barrel. We're going to be acquiring about 40 rain barrels, and during the youth festival with Luke's service, we're going to be promoting this, and we'll be giving barrels to the people who want them at home. The art of rainwater recovery. Why recover rainwater? We have we're lucky to live in an area where water is abundant and where everybody can use it freely, or at least not very expensively. On the other hand, there are water problems like drought and drinking water. A lot of people are committed to recovering and saving this using rain barrels at home. Water conservation. What can we use rainwater for? It can reduce consumption of drinking water outside of the house. We can use it to water plants, the garden, to wash the car, outdoor furniture, or for other activities where you need water. What are the reasons? What are the reasons? They're ecological, but also they can reduce stress on municipal infrastructure during heavy rain by diverting water from the sewers. Another excellent reason to use rainwater barrels is that the water is water that hasn't been treated. There's no chlorine, so it's better for plants. Also, during water restriction times during the summer, it's always possible to water our garden or to wash the car. What kind of water? How much? 200 liters. 4,800 liters can be recovered during the summer. That's impressive. You don't need a professional to set it up. If I can do it, you can do it too. A base cement basis or something in wood. Make sure that the height is proper to go to the spout. Adjust the spout and put it at the right height. Put the barrel on the basis. Connect and direct the spout towards the barrel. The water falls on the roof, goes to the gutter, and down the spout, and the barrel fills up progressively. And there you have it. Before the summer, you have to empty it out, deconnect it, clean it out so that it's not damaged during frost or freezing. Make sure that nothing is within the barrel, and maybe wash it with something biodegradable. You could also transform it into a work of art. So if you're concerned with the environment and you want to participate in the better management of water in your life, don't hesitate. Set up a water recovery battle. It's easy, ecological, and practical. Good, thank you. So now Alexandre is going to be coming to the mic for the next project. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councillors. So a document that's important for the municipality and that has a direct relationship to a sustainable plan is the lowering of gas emissions. So council adopted an action plan for the reduction of greenhouse gases and set objectives to the reduction of the emissions, corporate and collective. So the corporate, for example, would be the buildings, municipal fleets, and the garbage that goes to the dump. So before you have a slide that talks about an initiative of the municipality for 2017. So we transformed a vehicle to propane. The objective was to have to reduce the greenhouse gases. So basically, it also was economically viable, better for the community. Another aspect that touches on the municipality is a concrete action. There was a commitment by the municipality for the project Sauver. The municipality committed with the AFMB and the ASM to purchase 2 electric cars and to have 2 charging stations. The municipality is going to have to give 20% of the expense, and the FCM will give us the funding of 80%, of a total of $145,000. The objective is to reduce the emissions of the municipal fleet. Another project is a feasibility project for 2 buildings to see if there's a possibility of transforming these 2 buildings, the Aquatic Center and the Operations Center, to transform them to biomass. So it's a feasibility study. No decision has been taken. We're still waiting for the report from our partners, the consultants. So it's partnership project with the FCM and the AFMNB. So we're waiting for the results. There'll be a follow-up later on this year. Another thing, this is a continuing project. We're in partnership with Eco 360. They are doing some positive things concerning recycling and also garbage management. Eco 360 have a program of mobile depot. If you're not aware of what the program is, they set up recycling bins in different areas around the Greater Moncton area, and people can bring their big So, for example, if you live in Petit-Kodiak or in the Dieppe region, you don't necessarily have to go to the big sites. You can put your garbage in these mobile bins. Big pieces of waste can go there. So that'll be reducing the greenhouse gases. We know the recycling system, the three-tier recycling system. Something that's interesting is Eco 360 has started to produce electricity with the waste, with methane from so they started to produce electricity. That's very interesting for the region. Another program is the tree planting with the leisure services, with Justin Poirier and his team. There are different programs within the municipality, and as you can see here before you with the table, we planted 85 trees with the community program, 30 trees for a tree for life, 25 trees for the 150th anniversary of Canada, and 500 trees on municipal lands, and 250 trees given to the residents at the youth festival. So as you can see, the municipality does its share for tree planting, and it's important for the reduction of greenhouse gases at the corporate level. The following project is the setup of a belvedere around the Petit-Kodiak, and we set one up to have a better view on the existing aboiteaux around the Petit-Kodiak. We also received funds to raise the dike, and we're going to be improving the aboiteaux so that we can make sure that there's no impact from climate change. Destination 2040, that touches on different axes. We try to integrate the different complete streets within the municipality. We have concrete recommendations from the municipal plan. There was also an analysis for public transport to see the possibilities of improvements within the municipality. We try to do a lot of promotion. Our communication department has been helping us. We use the different communication tools, the Twitter, Facebook, Dieppe, to communicate our initiatives, to educate the population as to what sustainable development is and what to expect for 2018. So there are a couple of statistics, 20 publications on Facebook, 14 on Twitter, 5 issues of Dieppe Mag. Another aspect here that's important is to develop new partnerships to move forward other projects. So before you see the list of partners with whom we work, and we'll be continuing to work with them in 2018. So that puts an end to the presentation. So if there are any questions, thank you, Monsieur Girard, Monsieur Frenette. Questions by members of council? Good, excellent. Thank you for your presentation. I think that it says a lot about the activities on the sustainable development for last year and the year coming up. I think that it's something where our municipality can really position itself and have a real impact. We are in the process of preparing a presentation for the 31st of January with the Chamber of Commerce. That will certainly be one of the elements that has to be included, one of the highlights. Of the sustainable development. It's something that's a little different from what's usually heard, traditionally economic development, etc. I'm not against economic development, but it's nice to add these other things. So, okay, thank you very much. I'm coming back to my agenda. Okay, so the update, Public Transit Governance Committee, Mr. Godet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to say that there was no meeting. There hasn't been a meeting over the last 3 months. The next meeting will be the 7th of February, and then we'll be able to give a report on what was going on. We have to say also that this is a new budget year, and we're in the process of setting up the road changes. The idea is to improve the different. So we need the approval at all levels for these routes. So we'll have to wait till the beginning of the spring, at which point we'll be able to make announcements on these different routes. The objective of these new routes is to try to improve public transport within the municipality. For example, to the different centers, the sports center, the schools, the city hall, arenas, things like that. We hope that people will be happy with these new services. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item is the update on the strategic plan. Nothing for tonight. So if no one has anything else to add, that'll be the end of the meeting. Thank you and good evening to all.